So a couple of NBA teams are about to make a massive, and I mean massive mistake. I think they're going to screw themselves up, especially because they're giving up assets to trade up for Donovan Clingan. Before we get on to it though, if you guys are new to the channel, subscribe. We're trying to hit 5,000 subscribers as soon as possible, and we upload more basketball content here than anywhere else. So obviously if you enjoy the sport of basketball, you are going to enjoy this channel. But anyway, now let's get on to the video. So yeah, Donovan Clingan. I don't hate Donovan Clingan. I actually don't. I think if Donovan Clingan was I'm making a video where it's a mock draft purely based on my opinion, and I got Clingan going, I just need to read it here. I think I got Clingan going 11. And I think that Donovan Clingan anywhere from 7 to 11 is a decent spot for him, especially in this draft. But it seems like teams are just in awe of Donovan Clingan after his workouts. Supposedly they are fully convinced he's going to be a stretch big. And I really don't know how I feel about this. The guy shot 50% from the free throw line in college. I don't think we've seen a player shoot so badly in college, even from the free throw line, and shoot well in the NBA, other than I'm trying to think, Herb Jones maybe early in his career, Herb Jones. And look, Clingan is not even testing much better athletically than Zach Edey. He's not that much faster than Zach Edey. He's probably a worse shooter than Zach Edey. I just don't get the Clingan hype. I really don't. I don't know how much better he is than Edey. I think he's a worse basketball player. And as far as tools goes, as far as the tangible things you can measure, he is not better than Kel'el Ware. And Kel'el Ware is, I think, he's one of those guys that is suffering from doesn't care that much about basketball. But it's again, I always say it, the only way you can see if somebody really cares about the sport is if they're willing to put in the work and they improve. And Kel'el Ware's improvement year on year shows that even if he's not the maybe not the most enthusiastic player on the floor, he's still putting in the work, because if you don't have the improvement he made. You don't make the improvement he made from his freshman to sophomore year. And again, Donovan Clingan, there's never a question with the attitude. There's not a question with the motor. There's a question with his ability to move his feet. He's still not going to be able to guard pick and rolls in the NBA level. He's going to be a good rim protector. And as bad as people think Rudy Gobert is moving laterally, Donovan Clingan, it's a lot worse. It's a lot worse than Rudy Gobert. So I just think, looking at the top of his draft, it's a guy that is not going to start for a single team in the top 10, other than maybe Memphis at 9. And I don't think he'll fall past 9. But the Grizzlies, I think it's the Grizzlies, the Trailblazers. I need to see who else. There's a third team that is looking to trade up to get a top 3 pick to draft Donovan Clingan. And the Bulls. Supposedly, these teams might be looking to trade with Washington at 2 to get Clingan. If I'm Washington, I'm waiting on that trade. I'm waiting on the trade because there is a chance Alex Sarr falls to you at 2. And I think Alex Sarr at Washington, because they have time to develop him, he doesn't need to come right in and help a team win like Atlanta. And I do think he's going to be the 3rd string center at Atlanta. So if you're Washington and you can get an extra first, but if there's multiple teams that are going to be looking to trade up. So if you're looking at, say, Bulls 11, you're probably going to go 11 and 2 firsts. If you're going to make that trade to get to 2 or 3 for Clingan, that's just not worth it. I genuinely think, especially if you're Chicago, there's a chance you're in the lottery again next year in a much better draft. And they're going to have to give up something. They're going to have to give up something of value. And Vucevic doesn't have much value. Levine, I don't know how much value Levine has. Just to try get up and take a 7'2" center who might struggle to move laterally. I don't see the hype. I actually think he's going to be decent. But this is another guy where it's as far as listed in college, I know that he's listed at 7'2", and he's 7'2", 7'1" and 3/4 without shoes. So he's probably 7'3" with shoes. So we can't forget that Mark Williams had similar enough measurements when he was in college. They listed him as 7'2". I know he ended up being 7. I think he's a bit above 7 foot without shoes on. So he's was 7'2", but an inch and a bit difference between Mark Williams, who's more athletic. And the only way that this makes sense is if, and when I mean Donovan Clingan is lighting it up in these workouts if he's like not missing. If he's just straight up not missing at workouts and you're like, okay, maybe, just maybe, he might be worth taking in the top 3, but I just don't think he's worth trading up to get. I really don't. Like, I'm just looking at players, like let's just say the Portland Trail Blazers trade up. They've got DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton is better than Clingan. And let's just say they want to trade with Houston to get him at 3. What are they going to put in that trade? Like, give up an extra pick to have a backup center? Unless you think you can get something for Ayton, which I don't think they can. But it is just such a weird one. Because for me, teams I think that are in like the range that he should be going in, the like 7 to 12 range, are not going to trade up for him. And I just don't see the hype with Clingan. I just don't. Like, I think he's a good basketball player. I don't see the top 3 in the draft hype. Like, I genuinely think that, like, it's going to be a major mistake. Just like I think that for Atlanta taking sarr is going to be a mistake, because not that he doesn't fit what they want, he doesn't fit with what they want next year. 2 to 3 years down the line, sarr could be great, but, like, by that time, the Atlanta Hawks will have probably already blown it up, because those Atlanta Hawks will have their picks back, and there's no reason for them to keep going and being a 40-win team, as they love being mediocre. But at the same time, you're looking at teams, I'm like, if you're Chicago, I get it, you've got Vuce, but like, you're not going to get anything for Vucevic. Like, no one's going to be desperate enough to trade for Vucevic like you guys were all those years ago. And at that, like, 11 spot, you can still pretend, like, there's a chance that Reed Shepherd's there. There's a chance that just take Khalil Ware if he's there. You just never know the way things are. Ron Holland, Buzelis, Dillingham could drop into that range. Dalton Knecht is likely going to be there. Stephon Castle, if he talks his way out of top 10, could be there at like 11. So there's so many players that I not only think are like, I just don't think it's a smart idea to trade up for a guy that is not a top 10 pick any other year other than this year. Like, he might have been a top 10 pick in 2009 when Hasheem Thabeet went number 2, but since then, no. I think it's like Clingan. This is one of those ones where it's like Reed Shepherd, where I'm like, Reed Shepherd is a guy that in other years would be drafted in the 2nd round, and everyone's talking about, oh my god, why did we not take this guy with our 16th pick? Reed Shepherd is probably one of those guys that probably in other years would have been drafted really low but overperformed based on their draft position, and now he's in the conversation for number 1 when realistically he's a mid to late lottery pick. Like, he's a 10 to 15 pick in a bad draft. In a mediocre draft, he's picked 10 to 15. But now people are talking about him at number 1. It's the exact same with Clingan. I like these guys as players. I just think that not only is it crazy how high they're being drafted, but teams trading up and risking future draft capital for a guy that it should barely be a lottery pick. For me, I just don't get it, and I don't like what teams are doing.